The week 14 waiver wire is here. If you guys have any money left over, it's probably not a good week to have money left over. The list is pretty dry, but Jakob and I will try our best here. We'll start off with a bunch of the wide receivers, because a lot of the young wide receivers are starting to pop off here. Jacob's own Adonai Mitchell, ex-Colt, now popping off with the Jets. What should we expect the rest of the season?
He is their wide receiver one, at least until Garrett Wilson comes back. And who knows if Garrett Wilson is going to come back.
Yeah, that's an if.
Yeah, I believe he needs to miss one more game on injured reserve, and then he's eligible to come back in week 15. Whether that happens, who knows? The reporting at the time was that it would not be season ending. So I think it's more likely than not he comes back for at least 1 to 2 fantasy relevant games, but who knows for sure. It's not like it's a team that has any incentive to rush him back at this point, especially after they've strung a couple wins together and Aaron Glenn is probably safe going into next year, whether or not I agree with that decision. But Mitchell, for as long as he's in this role, it's perfect. Like, I was talking to a guy I work with today who is also a Colts fan, and he was like, oh my God, like, I wish we'd kept AD Mitchell. And I'm like, you know what? Like, he has always been this talented. It's just he's so inconsistent that in the role he was in with the Colts, where he's only running 10, 15 routes a game, like, how can you really expect to get much out of that player? He just has to be a player that you kind of make one of the focal points of your offense, and you live with the ups and downs as it goes, or you just can't really use it all. But he's not a player that can thrive as a secondary piece. Now he gets the chance to be installed as the clear number one. They're drawing up the first reads all over for him. And we've still seen the inconsistency. You look back at like the Patriots game, for example, there were drops. There were times that he's running the route a couple yards off of where he's supposed to be. So it's going to be inconsistent for fantasy. A little bit similar, but I think he's a little better to like a Dontayvion Wicks, where it's like really talented, great target earner, great separator. Yeah. But like, is he always exactly where he's supposed to be on his route? Maybe not. Yep. Are the hands always going to be reliable? Maybe not. But like, as we saw this week for both of those guys, when everything clicks, huge upside.
Yeah, so this month he's wide receiver 15 in usage. He's had at least 9 expected half PPR points in 3 straight games. What was interesting this week, like, I wasn't watching this game. I had better things to do on Sunday. But in rewatch, I was shocked how many like quick outs there were, because I don't really think of like Adonai Mitchell as this like little underneath guy. But there was a bunch of quick outs, which, like you said, is a lot of times first read. Like, you're only throwing the quick out if it's the first read in your progression. And they completed a bunch of those. Obviously, he had that big quarters post touchdown where the corner fell down, but he was absolutely hauling ass. So I think for this week, he will be a top 30 wide receiver. I think that if you need somebody just for this week, he's probably my favorite name here, but we just have no idea about Garrett Wilson. How about a rookie, Jayden Higgins? He's also kind of climbing up the pecking order. Had a decent game last week, nothing too overwhelming, but he's a wide receiver 24 in usage this month. I think Houston's passing the ball a little bit more now than they did last year in the early parts of this season. So what should the expectations be for Jayden Higgins?
I think it's a really good opportunity. He continues to really make progress over the last 4 weeks. Been consistently in the high ones in yards per route run. Been earning targets at a really solid level on his routes. The only annoying part is he still hasn't breached a 70% snap rate in games where Nico Collins has been active.
Hutchinson is like this good. Yeah. Hutchinson's like this good enough to like keep him out of the way. But
yeah, it's pretty aggravating to me that they keep doing this 5-person rotation, but whatever. It does seem to be what they're doing. The one thing that you really like for Higgins, not maybe if you're a Texans fan, is that they are just so unnecessarily stagnant with Nico Collins' usage, and they make it really, really easy for opposing cornerback ones to shadow him. He just lines up the same place basically all the time, and so if you have an interest in shadowing him, you will, and that means Higgins is always going to have favorable matchups. So it's a fun spot to be in, I think, for Jayden Higgins. He's going to continue to progress. He has clearly, it looked like for a while it might be Noel that was the more interesting Texans rookie wide receiver. It's definitely Higgins, at least for this year. And yeah, I think you can look at him as like a wide receiver 4 for as long as he's in this role. And if he ever actually gets scaled up to being a true full-time player, then maybe you're looking at a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting profile. I think there's like an athletic ceiling to what he can be, but he is also a big body and he's pretty versatile. And I think he's, for the most part, pretty reliable. He's not like the craziest route runner. He's not going to completely wow you on like these big downfield routes, but kind of a jump up and grab the ball guy. And I think he's got a decent enough feel for zone coverage for a rookie. So I find him kind of interesting. I think he's kind of, there's a tier when I'm doing my wide receiver rankings each week, like wide receiver 38 to 44, somewhere in that range. All of a sudden, like the projections when I'm looking at underdog, it's like, all right, this guy's projected for like 38 yards. I think Higgins is at least right in that tier right now. So with bye weeks next week, I do think that you could do worse than Jayden Higgins so far. Maybe a guy that has more potential. This was a good call out by you. Jayden Reed, what's the latest with him? And then maybe throw in some Dontayvion Wicks love too.
Yeah, so Jayden Reed returned to practice actually 2 weeks ago. He returned the Friday before their Sunday game, and then he practiced in the lead up to their Thanksgiving Thursday game. So I think it's actually probably more likely than not he is ready to go this week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Packers as a whole look to be much healthier than they were early in the season, and we've seen some dudes pop. Romeo Doubs, forever and eternity, despite the wishes of the fantasy community, will be running 85 to 95% of the routes every single week. You can lock that in. Christian Watson has been the best wide receiver on this team this season, basically, since coming off of an ACL injury. There's no reason to think he's not a full-time player. And then the one guy who would have probably been pretty easy to knock out of the mix is coming off his best game of the year in Dontayvion Wicks. So they're going to continue to try to find spots for him. And Matthew Golden has done not a lot this year, but he is still their first-round pick. He's expected to probably be healthy coming into this game. Even if it's on a rotational basis, I'm sure they'll want to still find some routes and opportunities for him. So how many routes you can reasonably project Jayden Reed for returning off of a major injury into a very crowded situation? Probably not a lot.
Yeah.
But like remains, one of the most efficient per route receivers in the league, frankly. It had 2 straight seasons over 2 yards per route run, and was also really efficient for his 5 quarters of play this season, despite playing on a Jones fracture.
Yep.
So, the play you got hurt on, they didn't count it because of a holding penalty, but it was a baller ass touchdown reception.
Oh yeah.
So good. Basically, I think just Jayden Reed is just a way higher quality of talent than you will find on the waiver wire among players that are and how it's going to work out, I'm not sure, but maybe someone gets hurt and in the intervening weeks he pops, they give him more routes, and maybe week 16, week 17 you have a guy you're really, really excited to start. Less commonly on waivers, but Mike Evans also might be back this week, and a similar idea and a much straighter shot.
Yeah, there was a couple reporters from the last week or two kind of hinting that Mike Evans might be back a little bit earlier than initially expected, so that's a good shout out too. All right, we're going to go down to New Orleans. Devaughn Vele comes in they were desperate for him to do absolutely something after trading with him for pretty much the same value as Rashid Shaheed. I think Rashid Shaheed's better, but Vele, to his credit, worked over the middle this last week, caught a bunch of passes, was on the receiving end of 2 scramble drill grabs, one by the sideline diving play, and then Tyler Shuck on the money throws it to the back pylon over there. So anything from Devaughn Vele, obviously the team total with the Saints always going to be 20 points or lower. So we can only get so excited here, but it was plenty of targets here.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too carried away on this one. I basically attribute most of this to Chris Olave playing through back spasms and being quite limited. I think in weeks where he is healthy, how many weeks is Chris Olave going to have 4 targets? I think not a lot. That's
correct.
That's the least involved he's been all year, and it was a game that he was genuinely questionable. So I'm attributing it to that. I think in most weeks it's going to be Olave 1, it's going to be Johnson as the 2, and Vele is going to be battling with Kamara and or Devin Neal for targets as the 3rd option.
Yeah, once I see scrambled drill receiving work and stuff, you can only give wide receivers so much credit, and so that didn't explain the entire game for Vele, but the 2 biggest plays were with that. For sure. All right, how about a 1-week rental? Isaac TeSlaa. Amon-Ra is probably not going to play, did not practice today. It's Thursday Night Football. It's a Cowboys pass funnel defense. Mm-hmm. Realistically, what should we expect from Isaac TeSlaa? Would you have the stones to start him in a deeper league if you needed a wide receiver 3?
You should expect 2 targets, but at least one of them will be caught for a touchdown, and it'll
with
be
one
really,
hand.
really cool.
Yeah.
TeSlaa is just not a separator in my opinion at the NFL level yet, and so I think he is going to struggle to earn targets. He's struggled to earn targets all year, but they don't have much else to do. They have Jameson Williams is the only dude on this team who's even remotely capable of earning targets. And without Laporta, without Amon-Ra, it's JMO, it's Gibbs, and they got to find someone else. So I think he's a totally fine shout. He's going to run nearly all the routes this week, probably. He did last week, especially after Amon-Ra went out. So yeah, I'm excited to watch the game. I'm excited to see him get out targeted again by Tom Kennedy. But I do think you could start Isaac TeSlaa. And then if you actually take just 1/3 of the trade value of Isaac TeSlaa, you might be able to get Jayden Higgins, who's in the same game and is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
This is very true. Yeah, I think I'll probably have TeSlaa as like wide receiver 36, and we'll have some fun with it. But I'm not expecting a whole lot. But it'll be fun if it.
Would
if it
you
does
rank him
pop.
at a Tom Kennedy?
I mean, I watch the Tom Kennedy stuff. He sits down in zone coverage. I'll give him some credit. He'll sit right there.
Tom Kennedy is the most like Blair White, Brandon Stokely, like Peyton Manning would have given you 7 for 90 I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable. Okay, so those are the wide receivers. So those were like the big names of the show. So we'll keep this thing moving here. Let's go with Devin Neal. I think he's just above kind of the 50% threshold, or kind of hovering that we kind of use on the show, but he played a bunch of snaps. So for Devin Neal, what did you see on film? Was there anything about the box score that stands out to you?
First off, I just have to shout out my guy Evan Hall, who I didn't know was on the Saints.
Neither did I. That was quite the treat. Yeah.
All the talk was about Audric Estime, like before the game. It was like, oh, how much work is he going to take? The answer to that was 0. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Evan Hall is on my screen, and I was like, oh man. Shout out to you, college fantasy football legend, Evan Hall.
He really was.
But Devin Neal, the far more important member of this backfield. Yeah, he is like just the prototypical fantasy-friendly backup running back to me. Like he gets what's blocked. He can pass protect fine enough. He is big enough that you don't have to give away his goal line work unless you want to a 35-year-old converted quarterback, tight end,
which they do. They love to do that.
Yeah, they do love to do that. On like a 3-win team instead of evaluating a rookie. And then he's also totally serviceable as a receiver. So he's just like the classic guy who can get 15 and 5 when there's a starter out ahead of him. And that's basically what he did. Doesn't find the end zone here. No real efficient plays. And so he gets 10 PPR points. And that's like kind of the floor with him, I think, that you're going to get. And if he does happen to get in the end zone, all of a sudden that becomes, 15, 16. And God forbid, there's a wide open lane to run through for 25 yards and maybe you start sniffing a 20-point ceiling. That's kind of where I'm at on Devin Neal. I think he's like a totally serviceable RB2 for as long as Kamara's out.
That I see it the same way, and that's what I thought he was at Kansas too. Like he was like a very reliable player. If he had just a little bit more juice, like he would have been like a potential top 100 pick. He can kind of just do everything fairly well. That's what he did in this game here. I thought he's got great patience. And that's kind of like his like best trait to me, and his good decision maker. But patience behind like New Orleans offensive line after all of their injuries right now, it's like he's not going to have anywhere to go. But he's a fair enough flex play. I hope you have better flex options than that, but you can throw him into the flex no problem right now.
He's in a worse environment than this guy's been in when he's gotten the chance to shine. But I consider him like 87% of Zach Charbonnet. In terms of just like a guy who's like, I don't think like he's that dynamic or like that great, but like from a fantasy friendly perspective, like he's a guy that if the starter's out, like he can just do everything.
Yeah. I see like a lot of Devin Singletary too.
Singletary's a perfect comp.
There's more juice here. Bhayshul Tuten, just want to give him a quick shout out here. He should be rostered. I'm pretty sure everyone that listens to shows that you and I appear on, he's definitely rostered. But just in case, what's the latest on Bhayshul Tuten?
Yeah, so, I mean, we had the big breakout 2 weeks ago, or the big fake out, depending on your perspective. Yeah, and I mean, we talked about that it was kind of a potentially a game plan related thing with the Chargers. How much of the retraction in that breakout the next week is due to it was always the plan and it was just this 1 week game plan versus his ankle versus Etienne just balled out on the first drive of the game and they didn't want to stop giving him touches. Really hard to apportion that and know for sure. But so they come back this week. It was a little bit more even than it was the previous week, but largely because they just kind of threw the ball all day on the Tennessee Titans, and Etienne just didn't really get much going. But what they did continue to do, and they've done pretty much all year, is give Bhayshul Tuten a bunch of carries at the goal line. I wouldn't know the numbers offhand. Maybe you even do. But if you exclude wildcat formation carries, it must be close to 80-20. Because a lot of the time that they use Etienne inside the 5 is specifically on these wildcat looks. If they're just doing standard under center handoffs, it's almost always Tuten in these situations once they get into 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, inside the 5. And they've given continually positive coach speak on that. And Etienne is frankly not very good at that. So it makes a lot of sense. It makes him, I think, it's a slightly better bet to me for like on a weekly basis than like the Blake Corums and the Tyler Algiers, because I guess Tyler Algier gets a lot of this dedicated too, but Tuten is like Corum can get a touchdown because sometimes they just leave him in, but they're certainly never bringing him in with intent at the goal. For sure. It's like sometimes they're just feeling charitable enough to not pull him off the field for Kyron if it's already his drive. It could be all ETN the whole drive. They'll still put Tuten into the game in those situations. And that gives you a decent chance at a touchdown. And he's still going to get probably 7 to 10 carries anyways, just in the flow of the game. And he's really fast, so he can occasionally break one.
Yeah, the Coach Speak Index had a good quote from the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. Just said that he's an effective option down there because he's got great contact balance and he doesn't have like a bunch of negative runs. So I see that in this game, his touchdown, it was like the guy he was responsible for and like the B gap was the guy that he made miss. So like that was like exactly what he needed to do, and he fully executed that one. Next name, Bam Knight. I've seen a couple Trey Benson stuff. I just don't get the feeling that he's like himself right now. So he obviously missed another game. I'm not sure if he's going to come back this week or if at all. I believe this is his last opportunity to come off the 21-day period. But we'll find out. Bam Knight, there was one fumble that he had where the defensive end was like laying on the ground, just like sticks his arm out and like punches the ball out. Bam Knight probably didn't even see the defensive end. Aside from that, I thought he played pretty well. So we're dealing with the Cardinals offense right now. But Bam Knight, what should our expectations be?
First off, I think Bam Knight has kind of always been good. I remember way back when he was with the Jets, like he popped in a lot of the advanced metric stuff. He's always been kind of a nerd favorite, just never really got an opportunity. Life's hard when you're was he a UDFA, I think?
Was he? Was that the same time when it was Israel Abanikanda? Was it Bam Knight and Abanikanda? It was kind of battling.
It was like in
Michael Carter.
There was like 5 guys involved, and I can't remember in which weeks who was injured. But like the second half of that season, there was like a rotating cast of characters, and it involved Ty Dolla Sign Johnson, Bam Knight, James Robinson, Michael Carter, Izzy Abanikanda. Like it was just like a never-ending charade, and it would be like 3 different guys each week. I'm sure Tevin Coleman was involved. I might be mixing up the years, but there was like a dark period of a couple years of Jets sad running backs.
Yes.
Anyway, I always thought Knight was kind of the best of that morass of sadness. I think he's looked pretty rock solid. Like immediately when he got on the field next to Michael Carter and Amari DiMercato, like, this is the only, this is clearly the best dude. Like he's the one who has the most juice, and they've recognized that over time. He's like kind of a pseudo workhorse now in Arizona. And I agree with you. Like Benson, I think it seemed like the plan was to potentially get him activated this week. He starts the week practicing, and then he goes into a midweek DNP. Cardinals don't really have reporters, so like, is that a midweek downgrade? Like, did he aggravate something? Knows? We'll never know. But I think maybe someone will ask the Stalinist regime that is the Arizona Cardinals, like what's going on, and we'll find out. But I think if I was a betting person, and I guess I am, probably would bet against Trey Benson playing for the Arizona Cardinals this year at this point, and it's probably Bam Knight RB2 season from here forward.
Yeah, I think Bam Knight's a perfect flex option for deeper leagues, and he should be rostered. Yeah, I see it the same way. Pretty similar. Chris Rodriguez, he's got more competition. Like there's at least more like defined roles with the Commanders, but we're talking about a lead back getting some goal line touches. Like anything about Chris Rodriguez that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, like I tend to be like a bit of a C-Rod hater, I guess, just because like I find that this archetype of running back like really gets overloved on Twitter, just because he's like large and he like breaks tackles, and like I just find that people freak out about these. Like people love Braylon Allen on Twitter way more than I love Braylon Allen. I feel a little similar about Ollie Gordon. But like, you know, he gets what's blocked, and he is a load to tackle, so credit to him. I will point out that like lead back in this situation is just not frankly that important, because being the lead back has led him to have 26 of the Commanders' 63 total carries the last 2 weeks, because he's giving up carries to a quarterback in Mariota or Daniels if he comes back. He's giving up carries to the satellite back, Jeremy Nichols. He's still giving up some carries to the other early down back in Bill Krosky-Merritt. And then he's also giving up carries to a wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. Yeah. So he's like the lead, but of like a 5-way split rushing attack on a team that sucks. So
Other than that, you love him.
So like he basically needs to find the end zone. Like despite all of the C-Rod hype that's been in my life the last 2 weeks, he's averaging under 10 PPR points in those two games, and that's with a touchdown. So all that to say, I'm not as fascinated by Chris Rodriguez. You can definitely start him and and hope for a touchdown, but like people's obsession with the lead back concept, I think, is just a bit extreme because your baseline projection for him is like 12 carries and you're hoping for a touchdown and no targets. That's pretty similar to the projection from like Tuten or Algier or Corum. It's like he projects like 4 carries better than these guys. And like it's just that he gets the plurality of the touches, so you feel more secure, but it's really not that different.
Yeah, he's the running back 36 in the usage model this month. So like it really does not matter at all. I watched all of his carries today and I didn't even bother even giving out a take for Twitter about it. Like I learned absolutely nothing from them. So let's quickly rank those running backs. Neal, Tuten, Bam Knight, Chris Rodriguez. You can pick if it's for this week or for the rest of the year, those 4 names.
Oh man. I think I would go with Neal 1, Knight 2, and that's like assuming that you have like a gaping need at running back.
Yeah, you need these guys. Yeah.
And then I guess I'd go Tuten, and then I'd go Rodriguez. Assuming that you don't have a major need at running back, then I would prefer Tuten to all of these guys, and I would also prefer the Corums and the Algiers, etc. over all of these guys if you're not starting them right now.
Cool. Just want to give it one quick shout out. Malik Davis is literally 0% rostered. He's at least the number 2 to an offense that's really good. So like, everyone says not in my league. Malik Davis is available in your damn league. And he's better than some guys that have some ownership. Just wanted to give him a quick shout out. 2 tight ends really quick. Brenton Strange, nothing like really new about that. He's like a fine enough player. He's like around the tight end 12 in my weekly rankings. I don't think we have to really discuss him. If you need somebody, you can plug him in. Darren Waller, not a full-time player upon his return, but at least he has like some actual ceiling to chase if you can dream it up. Totally. What should we do with Darren Waller?
Yeah, I think Waller, you're pretty pumped about. Like he is Achane's basically a wide receiver. So he's the number 3 option in this passing game, but they're using him in a very fun way. Like they're actually using him downfield, whereas like when it's Dulcich, they're mostly just throwing him little stuff. Yep. He was a top 12 guy for the brief time that he started prior, and immediately got like 2 20+ yard passes in his return. I think you could totally start Darren Waller as like a tight end 10 to 15. He is probably the best option you can find off of the waiver wire in a lot of deeper leagues, especially even if you're in some like tight end premium formats. A lot of people dropped him. He might still be out there. I would prioritize him.
He was this close to scoring a touchdown. He was kind of working the back of the end zone there, and Tua just kind of threw the ball out. Waller's kind of lost out there, but he was this close to scoring a touchdown, and then he would be on the thumbnails of these type of shows.
He has a really fun profile because they prioritize him a ton in the red zone. The only other 2 above replacement level options on this team pass game is a 5'10 wide receiver and a 5'8 running back. So clearly they're going to want to use Waller in the red zone. And then they also use him downfield. So if you're able to combine downfield targets and red zone targets, his profile reminds me a lot of like early Mark Andrews, like before he was a full-time player, and it was a little volatile, but he would get used a ton on these seam routes and then use him a ton in the red zone. And so even though he was at like a 50% route share, it was just a really favorable allocation of opportunities.
That was the top ads. I'll quickly go through some of my drop list guys. I'll kind of do some teammates together. Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, just the offensive line with Justin Herbert. When you're not facing the Raiders, it's going to look a lot worse. Keenan Allen's, he's just not running enough routes right now. So with the broken hand and stuff, I don't have that much interest with the Chargers guys. Buccaneers, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and K. Dotton. The starters are back. We don't need these guys. You're pretty replacement level guys and get rid of all of them. Bill Krosky-Mary, we've already talked about that backfield. What about Ricky Pearsall? Sell me on like the path of Ricky Pearsall. No. He's going to have 3 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown at some point this season. I just don't see how he's going to get enough targets here. So Ricky Pearsall is like the guy that's rostered the most. That I think is like, all right, what are we exactly doing here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's still to do with the injury, but it's been a while. I think a more likely option with Pearsall is just he was an efficient, non-target dominant player at Florida, including in his 5th year as a college player. And then, he was an efficient, non-target dominant player for most of his rookie season. Flashed at an elevated role early, but that was with Jennings hurt, with Kittle hurt. And now Jennings, Kittle are back. They're healthy. And Pearsall is the fourth option pretty clearly.
Yeah, he just runs all the downfield routes. So he can get hot in a single game, but you're not going to get any of the schemed up stuff. And CMC is still catching 1 million passes. So it's just hard to get the numbers to work out there. Jerry Jeudy, Rashid Shaheed, Darnell Mooney, or that's the same player, over and over again. There's no interest. I think going back with Pearsall too, it's his bye week. This tier of wide receivers, there's a bunch of them. They're 30% to 75% rostered. You just don't need them. You're not going to be starting these guys in the playoffs. You should absolutely pick up freaking Blake Corum and all the running backs that we talked about over this tier of wide receivers. And then another person on my drop list, Tony Pollard. You're getting 6-7 fantasy points. There's no ceiling above that. I would rather drop Tony Pollard straight up for any of the handcuff guys that have any past upside at all. It's
I'd literally rather have Malik Davis.
Yes, the 100%.
The chances that Javonte Williams gets hurt and Malik Davis gets a 65% snap share are higher than the chances that starting Tony Pollard becomes anything other than just a completely masochistic ritual. It's I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine a player who's gotten more touches and it felt more impossible for them to get 15 fantasy points than Tony Pollard this year.
This is very true. And the fact that they could not trade him away, even though they're 1-10 at the deadline, says something about the whole situation. So not a great week for the show. We made the best out of it. I didn't ask you real quick, of the wide receivers, who do you like the most? Adonai Mitchell, Higgins, Jayden Reed, Vele, TeSlaa.
I think it's clear top two for me, and it's Mitchell and Higgins. Okay. I think I would go Mitchell 1, just because he runs all of the routes. He's currently V number 1, and then I'd go Higgins. And then I think it's a pretty steep drop off. Depends what you need. You need a 1 week spot start, maybe TeSlaa. You're just taking a swing for upside later. Maybe it's Reed. Yeah. Steep drop off pretty much summarizes the waiver wire show once we get to week 14. But we'll be back tomorrow. Stats versus film. Jacob, what do you got elsewhere? We'll actually have ADP chasing. We do our once per month episodes now. So ADP chasing is back tomorrow. We're going to be talking a lot of underdog playoff best ball stuff. We'll talk about whoever we think are going to be the league winners. Best ball mania, of course. And then otherwise, I have my usual stuff up on Thinking About Thinking. Lots of playoff best ball content there as we get down the stretch. And wherever else you can normally find me on various podcasts. Yeah, make sure to go watch all the streams about the playoff best ball. It's the best format ever. So I'll have that stuff once the season wraps up and Josh is on break, but it is truly the best. And is this the most fun year maybe to ever play it? Because it feels so who the fuck knows what's going to happen. I always love playing playoff best ball. But there's so many years where it feels like there's in my heart, there's 2 teams in each conference that I actually believe in. Yep. And if you get boxed out of them, you just feel like you're throwing money in the water. But who the heck's going to win the AFC this year? I have no idea. It's conceivable we could have a playoffs without any of Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen this year. Yeah. And it's who do you, we were trying to talk about it. We did the ship chasing episode before Thanksgiving. And we were like, who would you actually, pick in your heart, screw the models, to win the AFC? And most of us still said the Chiefs, who are probably not going to be in the playoffs. I would probably still say the Chiefs. I was I understand it's 40% chance. I still believe it's the Chiefs. I don't mathematically they're unlikely to even participate in the playoff game. And I still think they're the team that we're going to watch in February. Because if it's not them, the Bills have so many flaws. The Ravens look like a shell of themselves. And then it's are you seriously going to pick, believe in the Patriots, the Broncos, the Colts, the Jaguars? All of these teams are a bunch of whatevers. So it's crazy. Yeah. The 2 teams I'm talking myself more into is the Texans if they get hot, and then the Broncos, where it's all right, you have a young quarterback that in theory can just get hot. They're vertical passers where even if they play pretty mediocre in a 3-game sample, could they just get hot throwing the ball down the field? And we know that their defense is going to be pretty good. It's one of those years where I can't do it with D'Amico Ryans, man. It's no, neither could I. It would be more of a Broncos thing, but yeah. It's dude, if the Texans hired a game management consultant tomorrow, I think they could win the Super Bowl. I just the way he coaches, it just puts such a ceiling on what kind of game they can win. Yeah. Because obviously they did get the win yesterday. I'm watching that game and I'm for most of the game, it felt like we should be losing by more, but D'Amico is committed to making sure that they can't win a game by more than 1 possession. And ultimately, if the refs didn't bone us, we probably might have won. So it's everything has to be so tight with him. It's just like, you're getting the ball at your own 20 with 2 minutes left, and you're running the clock out instead of even trying for field goals. Like, how can I bet on that to win the Super Bowl?
It is wild. Luckily, we'll eliminate one of the Chiefs or the Texans largely
Correct.
probably this next week, which will make the math of all this a lot easier. So
definitely.
Yeah. Great year for playoff best ball. Go support them. Go read his stuff. And then I'll eventually have some content around it once the season kind of winds down. So see you guys tomorrow on Stats versus Film. Later.